The longer we are awake, longer the buildup of something called adenosine in the brain and body. When we sleep, adenosine is pushed back down. What is caffeine? Caffeine effectively blocks the effects of adenosine. The ability to adjust one's temperature through some dedicated actions is the difference between being able to do more work or no more work. I hear from a lot of hard driving folks who are like, wow, once I understood dopamine, I realized why I'm so burnt out.
So here's the deal. Huberman is dropping some major knowledge that's super important for our overall attention span. Downing caffeine late at night, are ya? Yeah, that can totally wreck your system and mess up your health in a big way. The magic words here are dopamine, and understanding it is the first step to becoming more productive without feeling burnt out. Huberman knows just how crucial it is to understand how dopamine works, and in this video, Huberman gonna make sure that y'all learn about it so you can feel like your best self.
In terms of things that really enhance performance, we can talk about there are two ways to think about biology. One are modulators and the others are mediators. So there are some things that you can do that will strongly modulate your ability to do lots of other things. Sleep and its various outputs modulate attention, but it doesn't mediate attention. You can't really use sleep in real time to enhance attention, okay? A fire alarm will modulate my attention, but it doesn't mediate it.
When we talk about modulate, we mean adjusting or regulating something to the proper proportion, or even just toning it down a little bit. Now imagine being able to modulate your energy, or having the power to direct your attention at will to focus on what really matters to you. And who better than a neurosurgeon to give us the lowdown on our brain chemistry, right?
The important thing to understand is that there are certain foundational behaviors, do's and don'ts, that set the stage for you to be better at everything. So a lot of times people will say, how can I lift more, focus better, remember things better? It's like, well, let's think about the foundation of that. And that's always going to come back to two elements, and that's sleep and what I call non-sleep deep rest.
Huberman is definitely onto something here. There is a world of difference between just sleeping and getting that deep, restorative rest, you know? This distinction could seriously change your life once you get it. The secret is all in our biology, and in this video, you're going to learn everything that you need to know about what's going on inside your noggin. Say goodbye to self-imposed limits and hello to making powerful strides in your life.
Sleep is the fundamental practice or part of our 24-hour cycle where if you don't get it on a consistent basis, you are down-regulating your ability to do everything, right? Metabolism is screwed up, immune system is screwed up, et cetera, et cetera. However, it is not the case if you get one night's bad sleep or that if you're not sleeping perfectly that you can't perform well. But the point is that there are a couple things that you can do. First of all, every cell in your body has a circadian rhythm, meaning every cell has a 24-hour circadian clock that's regulated by genes. Think of your body as a bunch of millions of clocks, and you need to align those clocks to a single time. This is why when you travel overseas, your gut goes off or it's more easily you get sick. Number one practice for everything, sleep especially, is try and get some natural light in your eyes within an hour of waking up. If you wake up before the sun, turn on a bunch of bright lights and then get sunlight in your eyes once it comes out. If there's dense cloud cover, there are still more photons, light energy, coming through that cloud cover than there are coming from artificial lights. So try and get 5 to 10 minutes without sunglasses outside in the morning once the sun is out. Most days, if not all days. This has an outsized effect on a number of things. First of all, it modulates the timing of what's called the cortisol pulse. Once every 24 hours, you're going to get a boost in cortisol, big spike in cortisol. It's a healthy boost. It sets your temperature rhythm in motion, sets your level of alertness, your level of focus, and your mood. A late shifted cortisol pulse. So imagine the kid that wakes up and spends the morning in bed, or you're spending the morning in bed and you're texting, or you're indoors and you're typing on the computer. That's not enough light to accomplish what I'm talking about. And then you go outside around noon or 1, you're in what's called the circadian dead zone, which is the time in which light arriving at the eyes can do certain things, but it can't time this pulse. That means that cortisol pulse is going to come in the afternoon, which means that your temperature rhythm is going to be shifted late. And that's actually a signature of depression and anxiety and difficulty falling asleep. So you wake up, getting sunlight in your eyes will enhance or bright artificial lights, and then sunlight, if you're up before the sun comes out, turn on bright artificial lights if you want to be awake, will enhance the cortisol pulse. Cortisol is going to further increase in body temperature, exercising will increase body temperature. Somewhat paradoxically, getting into a cold shower or cold water, everyone says, well, it must make you cold, right? Well, if you stay in there a long time, you become hypothermic, right? But let's remember the thermostat example. You have a little area in your brain called the medial preoptic area. And if you make the surface of your body cold, guess what happens? Core body temperature goes up. So if you're going to do ice baths or cold showers, you can do, I would say, do them sometime, better than not at all. And there's the whole thing relative to training we talk about. But early in the day would be better. So there's a beautiful paper published in the European Journal of Physiology in the year 2000, which took people and had them sit. They actually had them on lawn chairs in water, a pool. It was a great way to run an experiment. They had people get into reasonably cool water, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not that cold, but they had them stand for an hour. Or they've had people get into very cold water, something like 40 degrees, for just 20 seconds. Now here's what's really interesting. That shock that you referred to is adrenaline, also called epinephrine. And it is released from the adrenals, obviously, but also from a site in the brain called locus ceruleus, a little area of the brainstem that then sprinklers the rest of the brain with epinephrine and wakes up the rest of the brain. So that shock occurs in the brain and the body, and actually the stuff in the body doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So you're a two-part system. So you get into cold water, that's the shock. For the first 30 seconds, for most people who are untrained, your forebrain, which is controlling decision-making, is basically suppressed in its activity and other areas are ramped up. Then what happens is when you get out of the cold, whether or not it's a longer period at 60 degrees or a short period, there's a long arc release of dopamine and epinephrine. That's what was shown in the study in humans. And that long arc of dopamine leads to a near doubling or more of dopamine and epinephrine. So that mood enhancing effect that you feel afterwards, it's real. Mm-hmm. It's based on a real neurochemical effect. And that dopamine and epinephrine will combine with the temperature increase from cortisol plus light plus exercise, all things that increase core body temperature. Now you've got increased core body temperature, you created a dopamine release, epinephrine, you've created a summer month inside your body. None of us need to learn how to stress or react. That system, the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, is automatic in response to different thoughts and stimuli. Cold, for instance, being the universal trigger of adrenaline. Now, the parasympathetic system is different. We rarely learn how to calm ourselves. We all are familiar with getting sleepy and falling asleep. That's the parasympathetic nervous system taking over. The longer we are awake, the longer the buildup of something called adenosine in the brain and body. And adenosine turns on the parasympathetic nervous system, suppresses the sympathetic nervous system. When we sleep, adenosine is pushed back down. What is caffeine? Caffeine effectively, through some chemical steps, blocks the effects of adenosine. But if you wake up in the morning and you didn't sleep quite as much as you would have liked, that means, and you're sleepy, that means you still have a buildup of adenosine in your system. Let's say you immediately reach for caffeine. Great. You suppress the action of that adenosine and you will be more alert. And guess what happens? Then the caffeine wears off and the adenosine binds to the receptors with greater affinity and you have your afternoon crash. So a practice that's very useful to people is to delay the intake of caffeine by 60 to 90 minutes after waking. Allow the adenosine to be cleared out, because it's not just cleared out in sleep, it's also cleared out in those kind of sleepy states of early morning. So allow it to be cleared out. The other thing that clears it out, exercise. So when you get up in the morning, you're kind of sleepy, I don't want to do this, but you hydrate and train, you clear out the adenosine. Everyone that does this says, oh my goodness, I didn't understand why in the afternoon I'm crashing so hard. This will really, really help. I hear from a lot of hard driving folks who are like, wow, once I understood dopamine, I realized why I'm so burnt out. What happens though is we're in such modes of pursuit and overthinking. We need to learn how to switch back and forth on a regular basis, what I call deliberate decompression or non-sleep deep rest. Have a practice each day of 10 to 30 minutes where you're not on your phone and you're in kind of a wordless state. You're just either yoga nidra or you're just relaxing or not watching anything, not taking in any sensory information, not meditating, not journaling, just in a state of just trying to blank your mind. And just watch how much stronger you come back in terms of your ability to focus and your motivation. One of the problems is we tend to fill our idle time with more sensory information, and that doesn't allow us to go into this deliberate decompression. It doesn't allow us to, you remember, I cut myself off, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a movie is worth 1,000,000 pictures. Now I can scroll through millions of movies very quickly. And so the dopamine system is just a little bit overwhelmed. I don't think we need to be off our phones all the time. We just take some time to just deliberately decompress each day, any time of day.